Good evening. I invite us in the busyness of the season and all of the music we're hearing, all of the traffic we're dealing with, especially with the rain, to first begin with something sacred, something that often can make us feel a little uncomfortable, but something that is to be cherished, and that is a moment of silence. Hear now this reading, this ancient text, which is attributed to the wisest king that ever ruled Israel. The reading is from Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 11. There's a season for everything, and a time for every matter under the heavens, a time for giving birth, and a time for dying, a time for planting, and a time for uprooting what was planted, a time for killing, and a time for healing, a time for tearing down, and a time for building up, a time for crying, and a time for laughing, a time for mourning, and a time for dancing, a time for throwing stones, and a time for gathering stones, a time for embracing and a time to avoid embraces, a time for searching and a time for losing, a time for keeping and a time for throwing away, a time for tearing and a time for repairing, a time for keeping silent and a time for speaking, a time for loving and a time for hating, a time for war and a time for peace. What do workers gain from all their hard work? I have observed the task that God has given human beings. God has made everything fitting in its time, but has also placed eternity in their hearts, without enabling them to discover what God has done from beginning to end. Once again, welcome to this longest night service. This is one of the most unique services we do here at the church throughout the year. It is very participatory, interactive. For those of you who are coming in, please take each item that you see on the table with you, including a lit candle. There will be times in this service where you will be invited to move, come forward. If you are not able to, or for whatever reason you just don't want to come forward, at those times you'll be invited just to lift your hand and I can do the walking for you. I will come to you and that'll make more sense as the service goes. But I also want to let you know that this service is intentionally, while retaining religious elements, both Jewish and Christian scriptures. We also have some poetry integrated because this is meant to be a service for all, people of all faiths, people of no faith, people who are in the midst of the world celebrating and all of the beauty and laughter and great things we associate with the Christmas holiday. We also, each one of us, knows that there are pieces of this season which make old wounds feel fresh again, sometimes creating even new wounds during this time. For those who are lonely or isolated during this time, those feelings can be amplified. And so this is a service set apart from all of the holly and jolly and bustling of the world, where we can embrace the full, wide breadth of feelings that come in this time of year. So thank you for being here. No matter where you come from, no matter what you believe, I hope you feel comfortable in this space as there is no judgment. We are just together. And we are going to join together with a responsive reading, which is in your program. You will respond in the parts that are bold, and you can remain seated for this. This is based on Psalm 22, a psalm of lament, of crying out. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me, so far from the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but I find no rest. In you our ancestors trusted. They trusted and you delivered them. It was you who brought me from the womb. Since my mother bore me, you have been my God. Do not be far from me, for trouble is near, and there is no one to help. God does not despise the affliction of the afflicted. God does not hide from me. When I cry to God, God hears me. Thanks be to God. Amen. As we have a brief musical interlude, you're invited to bring your whole self to this place, centering yourself here. We know we have brought worries with us, but do your best to, whatever you brought with you, let it be here, and try to disconnect from what's outside of these walls. Be fully present with one another as the music plays.
Here's the reading for Grief by John Donahue. When you lose someone you love, your life becomes strange. The ground beneath you gets fragile. Your thoughts make your eyes unsure, and some dead echo drags your voice down where words have no confidence. Your heart has grown heavy with loss. And though this loss has wounded others too, no one knows what has been taken from you when the silence of absence deepens. Flickers of guilt kindle regret for all that was left unsaid or undone. There are days when you wake up happy, again inside the fullness of life, until the moment breaks and you are thrown back onto the black tide of loss. Days when you have your heart back, you are able to function well until the middle of work or encounter, suddenly with no warning, you are ambushed by grief. It becomes hard to trust yourself. All you can depend on now is that sorrow will remain faithful to itself. More than you, it knows its way and will find the right time to pull the rope of grief until the coiled hill of tears has reduced to its last drop. Gradually, you will learn acquaintance with the invisible form of your departed. And when the work of grief is done, the wound of loss will heal, and you will be learned to wean your eyes from that gap in the air and be able to enter the hearth in your soul where your loved one has awaited your return all the time.
Thank you. Each one of you should have a wooden ornament and a blue marker. If you don't, no problem. They're on those center tables. Feel free to get up and get one. But as the music plays for the next few minutes, you're invited to take that ornament and take that pen and lift up those who are no longer with you for whatever reason, those who you are missing. Maybe it's due to death, maybe it's they've moved and are living across the country, maybe it's a broken relationship. Whatever is on your heart, the people you are carrying with you that you care about who cannot be with you during this season. And you are invited to write those names on the ornament or anything else that resonates with you along that theme. Even if you want to draw pictures, that's fine. Whatever is meaningful to you that showcases who you are carrying with you during this season. Please take an ornament, take a pen, and create that ornament as the music plays.
The message comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verses 1 through 10 and 13 through 16. When Jesus saw his ministry drawing huge crowds, he climbed a hillside. Those who were apprenticed to him, the committed, climbed with him. Arriving at a quiet place, he sat down and taught his climbing companions. This is what he said. You're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there is more of God and his rule. You're blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. Only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you. You're blessed when you're content with just who you are. No more, no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that can't be bought. You're blessed when you've worked up a good appetite for God. He's food and drink and the best meal you'll ever eat. You're blessed when you care. At the moment of being careful, you find yourselves cared for. You're blessed when you get your inside world, your mind and heart put right. Then you can see God in the outside world. You're blessed when you can show people how to cooperate instead of compete or fight. That's when you discover who you really are and your place in God's family. You're blessed when your commitment to God provokes persecution. The persecution drives you even deeper into God's kingdom. Let me tell you why you are here. You're here to be salt seasonings that bring out the God flavors of this earth. If you lose your saltiness, how will these people teach godliness? You've lost your usefulness and will end up in the garbage. Here's another way to put it. You're here to be light, bringing out the God colors in the world. God is not a secret to be kept. We're going public with this, as public as a city on a hill. If I make you light bearers, you don't think I'm going to hide you under a bucket, do you? I'm putting you on a light stand. Now that I've put you there on a hilltop, on a light stand, shine. Keep open house. Be generous with your lives. By opening up to others, you prompt people to open up with God, this generous parent in heaven.
You have created your ornament with those who you are longing to be with, or those things that are weighing on your heart. As the music plays next, you are invited, as you feel led to do so, to come forward and place your ornament on the tree. If for some reason you'd like your ornament on the tree, but you are not able or just don't feel comfortable coming forward, if you just raise it up, or you can always pass it to a neighbor to bring forward, but if you raise it up, I will come get it from you and place it on the tree on your behalf.
To love life, to love it even when you have no stomach for it, and everything you've held dear crumbles like burnt paper in your hands, your throat filled with the silt of it. When grief sits with you, its tropical heat thickening the air, heavy as water, more fit for gills than lungs. When grief weighs you down like your own flesh, only more of it, an obesity of grief, you think, how can a body withstand this? Then you hold life like a face between the palms of your hands, a plain face, no charming smile, no violet eyes, and you say, yes, I will take you, I will love you again.
Like any of the elements, whether it be wind or water or earth, fire can be something that is useful to us, something that lights our path, something that warms us, and also fire can bring destruction, can bring pain. The word, for some reason, that is coming to me out of all of the different imageries of fire and burning is heartburn. Heartburn. It's one of those dual kinds of things in the world. Each one of you is invited to have a candle, and I hope you do, and if you don't, please go and head to the basket and get one. Those candles should be ignited. They should be on right now. Not off, they should be on, so if your candle is off, please turn it on. We have, in our ornament activity, thought about those people we long to be with, those people who might no longer be on this earth, those situations we wish could be restored. And we have hung these ornaments as a reminder of them, as honoring them, as continuing to carry those people, those places, those things with us. But there are also some things we have with us that aren't really that good to hang on to. We have some things with us that are not worthy of being on the tree or even giving us heartburn in our hearts. And so as the music plays, I'm going to invite you, and bear with me on this one. It's a little up there, but I think if you truly do your best with it, you'll find meaning in it. Look at that little ignited electronic candle you have, and all of those burning things that need to be extinguished, that need to be let go of. Channel that fire. Channel that burning. Channel that destruction into the lit candle. And after we have a little music, I'm going to come back and tell you what to do next. Burning, you have that destructive force, that energy put here. in it, in looking at these little electronic candles, may we gain a little perspective that while that destruction, that burning, that fire has weighed on us, also, it's not that big. It's not a forest fire that can't be stopped. It's a small little candle. You, as the music plays again, will now be invited to come forward. And if you can, I invite you to keep your candle on until you arrive at this basket. And then as a symbolic act, if you just turn it upside down, there's a little switch here. You can turn it off. Oh boy, there we go. Turn it off and then place it in the basket. Again, as you feel so led to do so.
Some Days by James Baldwin. Some days worry. Some days glad. Some days more than make you mad. Some days more than shine when you see what's coming on down the line. Sometimes you say, oh, not me, never. Sometimes you say, oh, bless God forever. Sometimes you say, curse God and die, and the day comes when you wrestle with that lie. Some days tussle. Some days groan. Some days don't even leave a bone. Some days you hassle all alone. I don't know, sister, what I'm saying, nor do no man if he don't be praying. I know that love is the only answer, and the tight-rope lover the only dancer. When the lover comes off the rope today, the net which holds him is how we pray. And not to God's unknown, but to each other. The falling mortal is our brother. Some days leave. Some days grieve. Some days you almost don't believe. Some days believe you, some days don't. Some days believe you and you won't. Some days worry. Some days mad. Some days more than make you glad. Some days more than shine, witnesses coming on down the line.
Whenever we liberate ourselves from something that's weighing us down, something that isn't helpful, something that has been a burden, it is a good and joyful thing. Yet, it's important to remember that we don't end with just being empty, right? It's important to empty ourselves of those burdens, but if we don't replace it with anything, we're void. We're not complete. And so you have extinguished those lights which are not helpful, those heartburns, but we're not going to simply stay in the darkness. We are going to add the other side of that fire, of that element, the side which gives us warmth, the side which lights our path forward, even when we're unsure if we're able to take the next step quite yet. As we light our candles, you will see a litany that you are participating in. Your part is in bold. We light this first candle to remember those whom we have loved and lost. We pause to remember clearly their faces, their voices, their bodies. We embrace and give thanks for the memories that bind them to us in this season of expectation when all creation waits for the light. We light this second candle to remember the pain of loss of relationships, loss of trust, loss of jobs, loss of health, loss of faith, the loss of joy. We acknowledge and embrace the pain of the past, asking that into our wounded hearts and open hands, the divine will place the gift of peace, shalom. We light the third candle to remember ourselves this holiday season. We pause and remember the past weeks, months, and for some of us, years that have been heavy with burdens. We acknowledge the sharpness of memory, the sadness and the grief, the hurt and fear, the anger and pain. We accept and lay down the ways we feel we have fallen short and the times we have spent blaming ourselves and our Creator for all that we have suffered. We light the fourth candle to remember faith, the gift of light and hope that the divine offers to us in the stories of our faith and our traditions. Before I offer our concluding reading, I want to once again thank you for being here, because in being here, you ensured that none of us are alone, that no matter what has happened or what is going to happen for the rest of this longest night of the year, you started it with others. You started it with those who are in solidarity with you, that it's not all joy and songs and candy canes during this year. You have been seen, you have been heard, and you saw, and you listened. Thank you for giving one another that gift. Thank you for giving me that gift. Our closing words come from a poem called The Shortest Day. Some of you may be familiar with this. If you are not, I want to let you know that at the end, the final words that I will say, that I will read, are "Welcome Yule." And upon me saying those words, tradition has the congregation, the assembly of people, responding back in that same way by saying, "Welcome Yule." Now, many traditions have people saying that as loud as they can and as boisterous as they can. If that is where you are at, you are welcome to do so. If you are at a place where just a small whisper of "Welcome Yule" is what you have, that is fine too. But whatever voice you want to lend to it, whatever volume of that voice you want to lend to it, you are welcome to do so. I also, as you are exiting, please, with the markers, place them back in the basket. We would appreciate that. And finally, if you need to take some time after the music has ended and just be in this place for a little while, that is absolutely fine. Please take your time. And when you do depart, I hope that you are able to remember that you are loved. Remember that you matter. Remember that you are of sacred worth. Hear now the shortest day. And so the shortest day came, and the year died. And everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people singing, dancing, to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in the winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreen. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. And when the New Year's sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling. Through all the frosty ages you can hear them, echoing behind us. Listen. All the long echoes sing the same delight this shortest day, as promise wakens in the sleeping land. They carol, feast, give thanks, and dearly love their friends, and hope for peace. And now so do we, here, now, this year, and every year. Welcome, Yule. Welcome, Yule. Well done. Go in peace, my friends.